Reporters don't write about companies, they write about the people running them. So every time you pitch a journalist on what your company does and how fast you're growing, you're handing them the one thing they can't use. And that's exactly why you never hear back. I've spent years getting founders into Forbes, Business Insider and Bloomberg, and the biggest reason most companies stay invisible is because they're pitching the wrong thing. So let me show you why the company pitch is dead on arrival, what you pitch instead to get a reporter to write back, and why putting yourself out front as the founder is what finally gets your company the coverage you've been chasing. By the end, you're going to see you've had this backwards, and the fix is simpler than you think. A reporter can't interview a company. Think about what you're handing them when you pitch your business. You send over what the company does, how much you raised, how fast you're growing, and you're expecting a journalist to read all that and want to write a story, but there's nothing there for them. There's no person to quote, no one their audience can connect to. Companies are abstractions, and nobody has ever read the news because they wanted to hear about an abstraction. What they want is a person, someone with a story and a point of view, the one who's making the calls and driving the whole thing. When you lead with the company, you've stripped all of that out and handed them something they've got no use for. So you don't even get a no, you just get nothing. Your pitch is sitting in an inbox next to 200 others that made the same mistake, and the reporter goes with the one founder who gave them a person to write about. This is why the founders who fire off, "Here's what my company does and here's why it matters," hear crickets every time. It feels like you're leading with your strongest stuff, right? The growth, the funding, the product. But to a reporter, that's the least interesting thing you could send because you're answering a question they never asked. The company was never going to be the story, and until that clicks, you're going to keep pitching into a void, wondering why the press keeps passing you by. So if the company isn't the story, then what is? It's the founder, the person who built the thing and makes the decisions, the one who can sit across from a reporter and explain why any of it matters. That's who a journalist wants to talk to, the human behind the company and not the company itself. Here's the shift, and it's smaller than it sounds. You stop pitching what your company does and you start pitching who you are and how you see your industry. It's the same business, just a completely different pitch. Instead of "my company sells X and we're growing fast," it's "here's the founder who saw this coming before anyone else, and here's his take on where the whole space is headed." One of those gets deleted and the other gets a reporter writing back. The story is the human, the company is the proof. Let me give you a real one. I had a client named Jung who runs an M&A advisory firm called Embark Advisors. Now, if we'd gone out and pitched Embark Advisors, just another advisory firm, nobody's writing that story. So we didn't. We pitched Jay. What we led with was the guy himself. He came out of Goldman & Sachs. He's got deal-making experience most people never get near, and a real point of view on where M&A and capital raising are headed. That's a person a reporter wants on the phone, and that positioning got Jay into Business Insider and Bloomberg. 717 pieces of coverage in total. The firm came along for the ride because Jay was the story and Embark was just the proof behind it. Now here's where every founder pushes back on me. They go, "That's great, but I don't want to be the face of this. I want my company out there, not me." And I get it. You built the business. You want the business in the headlines. But that's the part people get backwards because you don't get to separate the two. You and the company go hand in hand. If you're not out front, there's nobody for the press to care about, and the company nobody cares about stays invisible. Pitching yourself is the only way the company gets covered at all, and when you do it right, the company is what wins the most out of it all. Take Justin Draplin. He runs a company called Eclipse Cottages, and they build tiny homes. We never pitched the cottages, we pitched Justin, the founder with the vision, the guy who looked at housing and decided to build something nobody else would. Reporters wanted to know how he got there and why. That coverage drove so much demand to his business that Justin did one thing you never want to do as a business owner. He stopped answering his phone because he couldn't keep up with the calls coming in. We're talking 448 pieces of coverage and 2.5 billion in audience reach. He pitched himself and his company is what got flooded. So that's the move. Stop selling your company and start positioning the founder, because that's what reporters want and that's what gets the company seen. But knowing you should pitch yourself and pulling it off are two very different things. There's a real craft to it. getting a founder position so reporters want them, building the relationships with journalists that get your calls returned, and knowing the exact angle one of them will bite on. That's the part most people can't pull off on their own, and that's what we do at Otter PR. We're a 2-time Inc. 5000 company, we rank number 1 on G2 and Clutch, and we guarantee our clients media placements every single month in outlets like Forbes, Business Insider and Bloomberg. If you want us to do this for you, book a free strategy call with our team using the link below. We'll look at your business, figure out how to position you as the founder, and tell you which outlets we can get you into and how fast. So that's it. Go pitch the person and not the company, and watch what happens.